All these charlatans, when they give opinion now, say Nnamdi Kanu must go through the court system. Let him be tried first. We cannot talk about the case that is in court. Ask the Oyezuzus. When they were charged for corruption, did they wait for the court to resolve their problem? I don't want to mention their name. You know them. We know them. Ask the Oyezuzus. What is Nnamdi Kanu's offense? They cannot tell you. I am not a lawyer, but I move around with lawyers a lot. And because I'm a repeat offender, you know, I offend them every week. So they charge me every week. Something we know as a principle of law is that the person that has been tried, not found guilty, the charge and acquitted cannot be tried again. That principle is known as double jeopardy. The Court of Appeal in this country made a declaration that because kidnappers were the ones who brought Nnamdi Kanu back to Nigeria from Kenya, you cannot try him for the offense they claim to have committed. They now went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court made another declaration that Nnamdi Kanu did not jump bail. That it was Nigerian army that went to try to kill him. And
ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any of our updates, because today we have some very important developments in Nigerian politics that are creating a lot of buzz. We are talking about Omoyele Sowore, the activist and journalist who has once again stirred the political waters by directly calling out Senator ORJI UZO KALU. And the main issue at hand, Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, who Sowore insists must come home immediately. Now, let me take you through this step by step so you understand why this is making headlines across Nigeria. Omoyele Sowore has been a consistent voice when it comes to matters of justice and human rights. He has made it very clear that he believes Kanu's continued detention is unjust. And he is not afraid to confront political heavyweights over it. On the other side, we have Senator ORJI UZO KALU, a very prominent figure from Abia State, someone who has a long history in politics and whose voice carries a lot of weight within the ruling party. The tension between these two personalities is now very public, and it's something Nigerians are watching closely. Sowore, in a recent statement, did not mince words. He accused ORJI UZO KALU of not taking the necessary steps to help bring Kanu home. He argued that political leaders from the southeast must take action rather than remaining silent while what he calls an injustice continues. Now, I know some of you are thinking about the political context here. KALU has always been careful in navigating government relations, and he has emphasized that Kanu's case is still before the courts and must follow due process. But Sowore believes that waiting and watching isn't enough. He insists that action must be taken now. And this is exactly what sparked today's headlines. And before I continue, if you're following this story, do me a favor, hit that like button. Every like helps more people get this information, and subscribing ensures you're in the loop on all political updates as they happen. The background here is important. Nnamdi Kanu has been detained for several years now, with supporters saying that his rights have been violated. There have been multiple protests and public campaigns calling for his release. But progress has been slow. Sowore's latest statement is significant because it publicly challenges a key political figure, and it shows a shift from private lobbying to open public pressure. Now, let's consider the implications. When someone like Sowore makes such a direct statement against a political heavyweight like KALU, it sends ripples through the political landscape. It's not just about Kanu. It's about accountability. It's about leadership. And it's about how leaders respond when their constituents demand action. Sowore is framing this as a moral obligation. The law might be slow, the courts might be deliberating, but the voices of the people cannot be ignored. And this is where you, our viewers, come in. If you believe that justice must be served and that Kanu should be allowed to return home, now is the time to engage with this story. Leave your comments below, share this video with friends, and don't forget to subscribe. This is exactly the kind of story where public awareness can make a difference. Sowore has also highlighted that KALU and other Southeast leaders have a role to play. According to him, they cannot afford to sit on the sidelines while the matter drags on. He believes that action from within the political system is crucial to bring Kanu home safely. He even suggested that if political leaders truly care about their people, they would prioritize this over party politics or personal gain. What makes this story even more compelling is the emotional angle. Many people see Kanu as a symbol of self-determination and the voice of the Southeast. For SOWORE and his supporters, this isn't just a political issue, it's a human rights issue, a question of justice, and a matter that touches the hearts of millions of Nigerians. This is why protests, statements, and public pressure are so effective. They appeal not just to politics, but to morality and national conscience. And again, if you're enjoying this breakdown, do hit the like button and subscribe. These stories are evolving daily, and keeping up to date is key if you want the full picture. As SOWORE continues to push for Kanu's release, it's also important to note that this isn't the first time he has taken a stand on controversial political matters. His history of activism gives weight to his current statements, and people are listening. The contrast with KALU's measured approach highlights the tension between activism and traditional political negotiation. So far, we've seen SOWORE organize peaceful protests, engage the media, and use social platforms to amplify his message. KALU, on the other hand, continues to advocate for due process and judicial patience, which is his approach to avoid escalating tensions or breaking legal norms. The clash between these two approaches is exactly why this story has captured national attention. At this point, viewers, I want to ask you, what do you think? Should political leaders like KALU be more proactive in situations like this, or should they strictly adhere to legal processes? Comment below while also liking the video and subscribing if you haven't already. Your engagement matters and helps others stay informed. We've now reached a key moment in this saga. SOWORE's statements have effectively forced the conversation into public discourse, making it difficult for political leaders to remain silent. And with Kanu's detention still unresolved, tensions are likely to continue building. Citizens, activists, and political commentators are all watching closely to see what happens next. As we move forward, one thing to understand is the scale of public reaction to SOWORE's statements. Nigerians across social media have been actively discussing this confrontation. Some support SOWORE, praising his courage to challenge someone as influential as KALU. Others are more cautious, agreeing with KALU that the judicial process must be respected. This division shows just how sensitive and high stakes this situation is. SOWORE's insistence that Kanu must come home isn't just words, it's a call to action. He has emphasized that this is about justice, accountability, and human rights. He believes that political leaders, especially from the Southeast, have a moral duty to intervene and ensure that Kanu's detention doesn't continue indefinitely. This message resonates with many citizens who feel that justice is delayed but should never be denied. Now, consider the political context. ORJI UZO KALU, as a former governor and current senator, has a long-established reputation. He's known for strategic political moves and has allies in very high places. By publicly challenging him, SOWORE is not only amplifying his call for Kanu's release, but also testing the limits of political influence and accountability. It's a bold move that keeps the public's attention firmly on this issue. And let's not forget the human element. Nnamdi Kanu's detention affects many people emotionally. His supporters see him as a symbol of identity, self-determination, and leadership. For them, every delay in his release feels like a personal injustice. SOWORE taps into this sentiment by making the argument that waiting for the courts or for political leaders to act is not enough. It's a moral obligation to demand action now. We also need to consider the wider implications for Nigeria's political landscape. When activists like SOWORE take a stand against senior politicians, it sets a precedent. It sends a message that citizens and civil society are watching, and that silence or inaction from leaders will not go unnoticed. This dynamic can influence how politicians respond in the future, especially on issues that generate strong public interest. And again, if you are following this story closely, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. By doing this, you help more people get access to timely news, and it keeps the conversation going. SOWORE's strategy is clear. He combines peaceful public demonstrations with media engagement. He ensures that his message reaches as many people as possible creating both social and political pressure. By doing so, he forces a conversation that political leaders cannot ignore. KALU's careful, legalistic approach contrasts sharply with SOWORE's direct activism. And that contrast is part of what makes this story so compelling. Looking ahead, the key question is, what will be the next move? Will KALU and other Southeast leaders respond more assertively to SOWORE's calls, or will they continue to emphasize the judicial process? This uncertainty keeps Nigerians glued to updates, discussing every statement, every protest, and every development in the media. And here's where the story gets even more interesting. SOWORE has been clear that he is not merely seeking a headline or a show of strength. He frames this as a fundamental issue of justice. According to him, Kanu's detention has wider implications for human rights, governance, and political accountability in Nigeria. It's not just a personal or regional issue, it's about the country as a whole. To make this clearer, imagine the ripple effect. If Kanu is released following such public pressure, it could encourage other activists and citizens to demand accountability in other areas of governance. On the other hand, if the government or political leaders resist public pressure, detention could escalate, potentially creating larger demonstrations and more intense national debates. Now, viewers, at this point, I want to remind you again, like this video, subscribe, and share it with friends. Your engagement keeps the channel alive and ensures that stories like this reach more people. Another aspect we can't ignore is the media coverage. From national newspapers to online platforms and TV stations, SOWORE's confrontation with KALU is dominating headlines. Media framing plays a big role here because it shapes public perception. SOWORE is being portrayed as a bold activist demanding justice, while KALU is positioned as the cautious, politically experienced figure who insists on legal process. This framing creates a narrative that's easy to follow but layered with tension. And here's the thing, tension sells. People are naturally drawn to stories where high-profile figures clash over moral, legal, and political questions. It's not just about politics, it's about ethics, leadership, and responsibility. This is exactly why Nigerians are watching this story closely, discussing it in offices, at homes, and across social media. We are now moving toward the midpoint of this story. SOWORE has already successfully brought KALU and other political leaders into a public debate. That in itself is significant. It shows that activism can push the boundaries of political conversation and make leaders accountable to public sentiment. And as always, viewers, don't forget, hit the like button, subscribe, and comment below with your thoughts. We want to hear from you. Do you support SOWORE's approach, or do you think KALU's caution is justified?